Hey everyone! Welcome to my first ever comparison video. This episode we will be based on Sandersides due to it being the first ever fandom that I've cosplayed and actually posted videos with. Cosplaying Sandersides was a big starter point for me getting into cosplay. Looking at the cosplays in the past, they're not well made. I used a lot of cheat codes into actually making them, and the cosplays itself completely got destroyed. First ever video that I've made, this is 12/20/2021. Oh boy. It's gonna be my 4th anniversary this year in December 20th, 2025. Wow. Right off the bat, the background or the backdrop, this was very simple, but I also didn't like it as much. I literally just took like a long piece of white yarn and just made it into a zigzag as in a Christmas tree. Due to it being Christmas at that time, I wanted to be a little festive but also spooky, so I added Halloween ornaments and tied it to the string on it. Not very stable, I will admit, but in general, it just looked childish. Going on to the cosplay itself, makeup, pretty general. It was just eyeshadow underneath the eye. That was pretty much it. This was the time that I actually somewhat started getting into hair dyeing. And thanks to my mom, she's amazing at hair dye, I would not have been able to experiment as much as I did without her help. It was amazing. The cosplay outfit itself, like I said, it wasn't made to stay very long. Obviously, the outfit was not gonna fit me anymore, but looking back at it, I know that I should not have tried to cheat my way through it. The stitching itself was terrible. I was too impatient to actually stitch it correctly, and the stitching was maybe about an inch long, like an inch apart. And that's what really made it not so stable in the first place. Another thing that I did, I hot glued not only the patch to the actual jacket, I glued the actual white yarn, sorry. I didn't stitch the white yarn. I should have, but I didn't because I was impatient. The shirt that I used, I thought that it would be similar to the rip shirt in the actual outfit, and it just had like a floral lacing at the top. It wasn't that great. So most of this cosplay just fell apart. The next cosplay I did was Janice, also known as Deceit. The makeup on this one was a little iffy. I was not able to make the actual scales on the face, so I just like brushed on the green to make it look like it was the scales, but it wasn't as detailed. The lip itself, I didn't like it just because I did not like the shape of my lips before. and it just made my lip look very bulky. I didn't like it very much. The lighting here as well, I didn't have a ring light. I only had LED lights on the corner of my room at the top, so that wasn't very helpful. The ceiling light was too yellow for my liking, so I didn't use that either. The cosplay though, it was a little bit better. I was actually able to take in the time and the patience to actually sew on the yellow ribbon to go on the collar, the line going down his shirt. I was able to do that with all yellow ribbon. The cape, on the other hand, I didn't like it very much. I didn't like how it was too open, so I cut the side on the arms a little bit more closed, and that was a big no-no. I ended up completely ripping apart the seam, and it made it more of a shawl type of thing. Like, it had the two pieces up front and then the actual cape in the back, and that was not helpful at all. The chain that I used for the cape, it was too small as well. Other than that, I got no comments. Actually, that's a lie. At the bottom of the cape, I was too lazy to actually stitch it shut, and I ended up hot gluing it. That's a big no-no. Next cosplay. This is Roman Sanders. This is actually when I hated the backdrop. It was too distracting for an already extra character. I did not like the golden streamers that were going down and tied together to make it look like curtains. I thought it was a great idea at the time, but now that I'm looking back at it, it's too distracting. I hated it. The cosplay itself is not terrible. Again, like an idiot, I glued on the patch on his arm onto the actual white polo that I was given by my dad. I painted on the yellow strips, and that kind of bled through a little bit on the back of the shirt, and I never found out if it was actually seen in the very back. Most of this was completely stitching. The sash was completely stitched and stitched onto the shirt, so that was a big plus for me. I didn't have any bulky belts, so this very skinny belt, I only wished it was a little bit thicker. That's it. But it did help hold the sword, which you can see, like, there's the gem right there at the bottom of the screen. It did help hold it there, so it wasn't a complete waste. Okay, up next we have the dark side of creativity, which is not Remus. I made this cosplay thinking that the dark side of Roman would be pride. I really liked that concept, and looking at all the fan art, I was like, huh, what if Janice convinced Roman to go onto the dark side for a little bit? And I started having my first ever series with Roman turning into Pride. Granted, it was terrible. I only did the Roman cosplay for the series. I did not put Janice in, I didn't put in any of the other characters. It was just bland. The cosplay itself, the only thing I hot glued was the crown. I completely made the crown out of hot glue. And I believe I made the buttons on the shoulder pads with hot glue. Everything else was stitched on, which I'm very happy with. The yellow sash was actually one of my mom's rainbow curtains for her classroom, and I kind of just snatched them so I can put it in these cosplays. Onto the makeup, not my greatest. I was watching another cosplayer using like a very liquid eyeliner, I think, to make it look like actual tears were streaming down. I really liked it and I tried it myself, and as you can see, it looks patchy. This was a terrible idea. It did not work. But for a starter, it's okay. Here we have my second chance of making Janice. Again, you can see it a little bit better, but I did not put the scales on. Yeah, I just brushed on some green and then I was done. Again, the lip, too bulky. It did take me forever though to remember that he actually had a slit on his nose. Same outfit, no changes. Now finally, we are here with my favorite backdrop, my purple curtains. This actually mellowed out the scenery and I loved it so much. It was so helpful. It set the mood with everything. It wasn't distracting. It's my favorite. For Virgil, again, nothing really changed. The only thing that changed was that I made the eyeshadow a little bit darker. That's it. Though I did actually start getting more comfortable behind the camera a little bit. At this point, I was very insecure with people actually watching me film because no one was able to hear the audio. If anyone walked by my door, they would just see me doing like these random motions, lip syncing to something, and I felt very self-conscious about that because they got no context on what I was doing. So I'm actually happy to see that the actual videos were slowly getting a little bit better with me getting comfortable enough to actually get into it more. Here we finally have Logan. Pretty simple. I didn't do any makeup at all. He was mostly just an acting exercise in a way. I was trying to get into more characters and more personalities at this time. The outfit, pretty casual. The polo was actually from my middle school. The tie, I snuck away from my dad. Don't worry, I gave it back to him. I also used my original glasses for these because I didn't have any fake ones. I did get some fake glasses later from the movie theater when we were doing the 3D movies, and I just popped out the lens to use them. It wasn't terrible. So we are back to Janice again. This one, I did not like the nose very much. It looked a little bit too chunky. The makeup I used was completely eyeliner, so it made it look darker than I wanted it. I finally got rid of that cupid bow for Janice's lip. I could have gone a little bit thinner, but I was still trying to figure out how my lip shape could be, trying to thin it out a little bit. And now we are on to Patton. Nothing too drastic here. I didn't have any makeup on. The blue shirt that I did use though, it ended up stretching out the more that I wore it. It was obviously too short on me. I could have gone for a better shirt, but I don't like Patton anyway anymore, so. Honestly, the only way that I enjoyed Patton was actually unsympathetic Patton. Having Patton as a villain, it itched the back of my brain a little bit. The cardigan that I used It was more of a laced kind of cardigan. It wasn't super fancy. I didn't get into this cosplay and enjoyed it very much. Oof. Now here is the first ever episode of my somewhat OC. The reason why I say somewhat OC is because he's based off of someone else's OC that I really enjoyed, and I wanted to make it my own story a little bit. I got into contact with the original creator, and they said that it was totally fine for me to use their character as a base, but not completely copy it. This series started when? October 3rd, 2022. That's when I was getting more in control and practicing more, or exposing myself to other ways to make an actual series on TikTok. So I duetted more videos of myself trying to get the scenario going with the story. I had more characters in this than any other of my stories. Here we have Virgil, still as a dark side. This was before he went into the light side. And I was getting really deep into Inkseat at this point. So I was making it look like Virgil and Janice were exes until Patton comes in and actually puts more stress on Virgil, making him think that Janice was a terrible person. All he did was lie, and he was just being toxic and manipulative every chance he got. Makeup is still pretty standard. I will admit it is a little out of focus due to how much editing, the exposure of lighting, that was a little bit too much. This was also me trying to get more into the acting portion, trying to expose myself to different acting scenarios, like being very manipulative, being more emotional in my videos. At this point, it was also a little bit more complicated for me to actually split the scenes a little bit. I actually never thought that you could do that until later on, and that's probably why the visuals are a little bit more pixelated, because it took so much of everything. Oh, I forgot. I didn't even make Remus videos of just Remus. The only reason why I got into Remus was for the season, or the series, and I didn't use him the rest of the time. I want to say he was more successful in my creative output. From the green see-through fabric, the green sheer fabric, I can speak. The sheer green fabric, I actually sewed that completely, and with pieces that I wasn't able to sew on correctly, I ended up using a lighter and just slowly burning off the edges so that it wouldn't fray as easily, so that helped a whole lot. This is actually the first cosplay that I've ever used makeup for facial hair. I never did facial hair until this guy. The cuff on the shoulders, that's actually a cut in half beret, I think that's called. And it had a black sparkly jewelry, gems type of thing. I thought it put in a lot of flair to it, so that was really good. I also used Logan's polo underneath the long sleeve shirt. because I didn't have another black polo that I could reuse to actually put it on. The bottom of the shirt that I used, I also sewed on some of the green sheer fabric at the bottom, and it made it a little bit more difficult for me to actually put it on. So for future reference, I would have added more fabric to it to make it less tight. The next video, this was the first time that I actually tried getting into deeper angst with, trigger warning, character death. So for context, Virgil is having a panic attack in the light side, and Remus told Janice to go check on him. So Janice went over to the light side to check on Virgil, only to find Patton was there, and Patton eventually took him out. Virgil obviously hated this. He was in so much pain, and all he wanted to do was have Janice back. And the only thing that he could think of to bring him back was to fuse with the hat. And that is where my OC, Kid, came into play. Kid is possibly my first ever OC that I actually worked with. Just to show you the comparison of what the character was from and what things I've changed. This video was also my first transition, or first good transition that I've had. I did a few transition videos with Roman and Pride, but they weren't really great. You can see in this video here when Remus finds Kid for the very first time, there's a yellow patchy spot on the hood. That's actually from the eye that I painted on to make it the original concept art. And then I stitched the area where the mouth would have been shut, and that was a change that I put into it. There was also a scarf that went down like a sash, but I also got rid of it due to it being too hot already. The yellow stitching was honestly the best I could have done. It was so much better, it was so much more clean. I am so glad I didn't hot glue it back together again. The headphones themselves were originally purple, which you can see the puff around the ear. It was the exact same color. And I just painted it yellow when I got another set of headphones. So I was like, hey, I could use these for this cosplay and not have to worry about breaking them, because I'm not going to use them anymore. I also had a cloud with a snake in the middle of it to make it look like Virgil's lightning bolt, but still had a little bit of a Janice point to it. The makeup for Kid was so much better. I instead of using the watered down eyeliner like I did for Roman, I just took 3 of my fingers and just smeared it all the way down my face. I could have made it a little bit darker, but honestly it's not terrible. Another thing about Kid is that I wanted him to use like rubbing against his skin to make that slithering sound that snakes normally do. When they rub against each other, they make that hissing sound. They don't make the sound themselves. It's the scales rubbing against each other to make that slithering sound, and I thought it would be a good idea for him to just talk with him moving his hand up and down his arm in different patterns to communicate. That didn't stick well in the series. I ended up using faulty sign language. It's not actually sign language. I don't know sign language. The only things in sign language that I know is the water sign. I know that one. I know food. That's pretty much all I know. The only way that I know those signs is because my mom had to take lessons in sign language due to one of her students being hard of hearing. I think she was completely deaf. Thanks to her, I know a few signs. Not all of them. Oof. This one video, my brother was actually in the room and it affected my acting skills pretty harshly. I was supposed to be crying really hard and having an emotional breakdown, and I felt so uncomfortable because I thought he was watching me the entire time, and I hated it. It was insane. Like, you can tell right here that I'm just like standing there like keeping my hands to my chest and just like fiddling with it. I was still very new with getting in front of the camera and everything. I didn't want anyone to be in the room watching me at all. Even if they weren't watching me, they had to be outside of the room, and I had the door closed. By the end of the series, I was getting more experience with actual editing in the videos, and this video probably has to be the most affected. There was the most effects in this one. There was like a sticker that was completely black at the top, trying to hide the other two cosplays. And I feel like it kind of made it defective on how visual it was. It wasn't that great. In this video, you can see that Kid finally got rid of his stitching. In this video, you can't see it, but he has two fangs that he got from Janice, and they slowly grew in while his mouth was stitched, so they wouldn't have known that he had fangs until Remus was able to cut them out.
I apologize for the random setup. I was just editing and I remembered that someone had commented asking why Remus didn't cut the stitching sooner on Kid's lips, and I thought it would be more meaningful to have the stitching show Kid's confidence. And the moment that Remus was finally given permission to actually cut the stitching off, that's Kid finding their purpose and their self-confidence, because everyone needs to find their confidence. Anyway, I want to clear that up real quick. Back to the video.
At the end of this video, you can see that there was an effect on it showing Virgil and Janice in the spirit world watching over him, and you can see that the words were not finished, and that's because TikTok didn't like me that day and I wasn't able to finish it. It was glitched out at the end so bad that it would not let me finish it. Finally, we're at the second time that I cosplay Kid. In this video, you can actually see his two fangs and how more confident he has grown.
I would say that I grew a lot with Kid. I honestly didn't even give him an actual name. I just had Remus give him a nickname and it stuck.
It's just Kid from now on.
This one, there's not much changes to the cosplay.
I did have it a little bit darker underneath the eye, smeared down a little bit further, but not too far. I could have gone a little bit further and a little bit darker, but I didn't. So that's probably the only thing that I could have changed. The dots around his lips, those are the puncture holes that he had for his stitching.
At this point, if I wanted to cosplay Kid again, he's gonna have my snake bites to gain more confidence about the scarring around his lips. Maybe I can have the two maybe I can have 2 purple gems. They're like sticker gems. You can see the pink ones that I've used for angel dust in my TikTok. I can probably put them right here to make it look like angel fangs. Well, angel bites. That's an idea for later. Another thing, do not at any given point eat with fangs in your mouth. Terrible idea. I made the worst mistake on using Janice's fangs and having shaved ice. It stained them so bad, they're forever pink. And then I lost one, dropped it down the sink. Yay! Do as I say, not as I do. Don't eat with fangs in your mouth. Oof. Okay. I love this video just because this was actually the first ever time that I've noticed how quick I can change my facial expressions. And it was so smooth. To this day, I am super proud of this video. So, I'm gonna let you watch it right here. Let's do this. You can see in that quick moment, my facial expression was so soft and so gentle. But then Patton came on screen. And I just went from like, oh hey, everything's fine. Hello. It was so smooth and so beautiful. I loved it. I love it to my core right now. This was a quick transition as well. And this is another proud video that I have. Watching, I'm gonna share it to the screen as well, just to show how freaking beautiful this is. See, it's very, very quick, but that quick motion with the fingers, I thought I was gonna hate it. I thought it was gonna turn out terrible. But then I looked at the video and was like, how the hell did I do that? Okay, at this point, I think we're on to my 3rd time cosplaying Janice. 3rd or 4th, one of those. The outfit's the same, nothing changed with the outfit. The more that changed was the makeup itself. I saw another cosplayer who cosplayed Janice use a fishnet wig cap, completely covered their face. They couldn't talk the entire time. I think that's why I kind of messed it up this time, because I was talking a little bit. And I just carefully dabbed the green onto my face, following the general areas where it was. And it was actually able to help me get that diamond look. It was a really helpful makeup hack. The lip though, this one is a little bit more pointed at the top and I didn't really like it very much. It was still pretty thin, which I enjoyed. It's just that one little triangle at the top that made it a little bit more difficult to enjoy. The slit on the nose, definitely better. And this is actually where I actually tried more of the actual eyeliner to make my eyes pop a little bit more. In this video, you can actually see that I actually took in the time, stopped talking, and actually fixed up the diamond pattern for the scales. This has to be my most favorited scale look. I love it so much. The eyeliner is a little bit more subtle. It's not as bold as I did before. I got rid of that triangle at the top, which was really nice. The slit, I was able to practice it more and that was very helpful. Here's another time where I've cosplayed Virgil and you can tell in this video that I've grown so much more confident. And I was actually trying to get more into 18+ content.
This was November 26,
2023. Wow.
There's not really much to go on about this one again.
It's mostly just me working out the eyeshadow.
I did enjoy the way that this eyeshadow looked. It wasn't too dark, but it wasn't also too light. It didn't look so patchy. I did really enjoy this one.
Oh, and another thing.
I did switch out the shirt to a more plain shirt that was more in the color scheme as the original.
It did get a little bit more hot in it though. That's probably the only downside to it. In this video, I was practicing more on how to move,
trying to make it look like I was being attacked. And this gave me a lot of practice getting into it. Focusing on like my breathing technique, like showing that I was kind of breathing very heavily, but I wasn't at the same time. The paint expression, it was all just practice for this one, and I really enjoyed the outcome for it.
The quick change too, from like, oh my god, that actually happened, oh my god, I'm hurting, like from that to you? No. You see, that more fear put into my expressions.
This was a nice practice to change my expressions so suddenly. So in this video, this is showing paranoia.
I enjoyed how Virgil could have been more of the dark side than he actually was, and his darker side would be paranoia. From how dark he wants to be, how much feared he wants to be, he wants that control.
And paranoia was the best way to go for it, and I loved it so much. This was my first time trying the actual eyes on the forehead. It was a little bit difficult for me to do due to my poor eyesight already. And having my glasses off while looking in the mirror, trying to make sure everything is symmetrical and in the right spot, it was a challenge. I also used the same gems that I mentioned earlier that I could use as angel bites
For Kid. These are the purple gems that I'm talking about. This is when I was slowly getting into the has-been fandom, and I enjoyed how some people added the gems for angel dust, and I thought that that would be a good concept for paranoia, so that he can have like this little shimmer in his eye. And I will admit, it was a little bit iffy on the forehead, but I genuinely enjoyed the two eyes underneath to show that it was the actual shimmer in his eyes. This video was also a practice on actually cutting the scenes. I think this was the same time that I was first out starting cutting the scenes, so that I can have more cosplays in one video. So this was a good practice as well. And trying to picture which direction I was facing to talk to the other character, that was a good practice as well. Here we are at the good stuff with Janice. The makeup was so crisp, I enjoyed it. The more subtle that I was able to like brush out the scales, the sassiness I was able to put into it. This is actually the first time that I had my snake bites. I just got my snake bites and I love them. They added so much more detail. I enjoy them so much. The diamond shape for the scales, I was getting so much better at that. The slit on the nose, perfect. Loved it. And this is actually where I started doing only a line inside the bottom of my lip, so that it looks like I still have that small lip,
but it's also hidden enough to be more subtle, and I loved it so much.
Finally, we are at the most recent set of videos that I've made, and this is all Janice. For right now, I don't have any of the standard size cosplays other than Kid. The other cosplays were either too short, they were lost, or they were just being destroyed. And I had to get rid of all of them. So this outfit was just a, hey, what if I put this together to make this? And honestly, you can see right now that I have the top and the chain, the hands. All I'm missing is the cape right now. And you can tell that I've grown so much with it. And having so many practices with other characters, it just added so much more to it. And my acting, so much better than it was before. So much better. And honestly, I thought that I was gonna hate the outfit because there wasn't as much yellow as I wanted it to be there. The only yellow I was able to put in was the yellow on the eyelid and the gloves. I didn't have anything other than black. Honestly, I'm not too upset about it. Janice looks so good in black that that hint of yellow on the gloves, just like in the frame, it's so pretty. I love the contrast. Focusing more on the actual makeup though, you can see right here that I actually started using black face paint for eyeliner, sorry. And it just helped me with those shadows even more. I love the shadows that I've done with this. And with this slit on the nose, it's absolutely perfect. I enjoyed it. This is so much of a step than those actual bold eyeliners that I've used in the past. And honestly, those were great. The only issue I had with them is that I couldn't control the brush strokes as good as I could have with the black face paint that I have now. And the brush that I used to actually put on the eyeliner is actually a regular makeup brush that has a flat head, and I was just able to draw it on. And that is so much easier than having the liquid eyeliner. Yes, it smudges a little bit more, but it's so much better than just having it bold and just choppy. Finally, we are at the end of this video. I am so glad that I did this, and I'm proud of how much I grew. Here are the main three that I've grown so much with, and it's so shocking on how much I grew with them. Thank you all for joining me in this comparison video. If I'm correct, the next person to be comparing myself with is Dobby. I'm kind of nervous. Have a good day, everyone.